Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD Starcraft, and I am here for Game 5, the final game of this set. And as you guys all know, I am going to be casting the best games, the top games from WCS Season 2. I've got a couple more sets I want to go ahead and take a look at, and I might do some individual games as well. Of course, as you guys probably all know right now, WCS Season 3 is going on. But yeah, until those replays come available, I won't be able to cast those quite yet. But I think these will have to do for now. These are obviously some really top-notch games. And let me go ahead and introduce the players here for the fifth and final game, the rubber matchup. It is going to be, of course, Incredible Miracle first, as the blue Protoss player at the top right-hand corner of Derelict Watcher, and his opponent is going to be EG's Alive, the red Terran player in the bottom left-hand corner. The games so far have been incredible, and like I said, it really kind of sates my thirst for some good old-fashioned TVP. And a lot of the Terran versus Protoss have been doing so far, I think they've been ending a little bit prematurely, but these two, they're so close in skill level that when you watch a game between these two, you know, it is very, very, very good. And, you know, all the games so far have gone beyond 20 minutes, so that has been a real treat. And hopefully this one will be the same. Derelict Watcher, of course, a big map. It is a two-player map, though, kind of similar to Aquiline Waste in that fashion. And it is actually a pretty easy map to go ahead and expand pretty rapidly on as well. And I think it'll be a good game. We'll see what happens here. This is the fifth and final game. As you guys all know, I am casting more sets. Let your friends know, as I'll have more games coming out in the near future. So, we do have a probe here moving out and an SCV moving out at the same time. Both players, of course, trying to get their scouting information in on the opponent's base. This time, though, Alive is going to block it off with a you know, preliminary supply depot. And now he's going to complete its construction. Looks like Alive really didn't want to let that probe into his main base. Of course, sometimes when that SCV is moving out and about, you have to worry that the probe can start zapping the SCV instead. And that is what is happening right now. But the Marine comes out. And that probe better get the hell out of there. Very quick reaction by First, and it looks like he will save the probe, just barely. It's always annoying as Protoss if you lose your scouting probe too, because you have to bring out a new one. It is actually a big loss, so it's good right there that First was able to keep that alive. And a lot of times, you know, you tell your probe to do something automatically, you forget about it, and it ends up biting you in the butt later because you look back and it's like, oh, where's my probe? It's dead. So really nice right there from First, obviously. And Alive here also blocking his opponent's natural once again with the good old-fashioned NG Bay. And I think First, he probably isn't too worried about this. He's going to be able to take it down eventually. It might cost him just a little bit. But of course, everything does count in StarCraft, and every advantage you can get on your opponent is always worth it. This probe has ended up cornering itself back here. I don't know what the hell First was doing with that. I was just talking about the, obviously, the benefits of keeping your initial scouting probe alive, but he ends up just losing it right there. But I guess it's okay because he ends up killing the enemy SCV anyways. So both players here with an initial 50 resource loss to start the game off. Engineering Bay, of course, is going to get taken down here. And Alive, of course, is okay with that. He'll cancel this building right before it dies to recuperate most of his initial investment. And yeah, it looks like he'll probably get the cancel off anytime now. Yeah, there we go. So you get about you know, 75% of your initial investment back, which, you know, considering that it delays the opponent's nexus, I think, you know, it's a worthy trade. And it's just something that you can kind of do to needle your opponent a little bit, get in your opponent's under your opponent's skin, and annoy him if possible. It looks like Alive here checking with this SCV to see if there's any proxies, which is always good. If you recall, in the first game I casted, which was game 2, First went for a proxy Robo Bay. Of course, it didn't end up working out as it was sniffed out right away by Alive, and that's because Alive is very diligent about scouting with his initial SCVs. He wants to make sure, if there is any proxies, that he finds them out right away. So very, very good for Alive to be on point with that. Mothership Core now is out on the map, and it's going to be floating around. Got to be careful, though. You don't want to float over a couple of Marines here. They are hungry for a kill. And obviously, it looks like this Mothership Core, oh, very close right there. But that's the hallmark of a good player. You're always, you know, good players they're always keeping their eye on the minimap. As soon as they see a dot of red, they're looking there, and they're looking to see what that is. Is there a unit in danger? Is there something I need to see? And you know, is there a medevac flying towards my base? And you know, a lot of good players, you know, they're looking at the minimap more than they look at the actual game screen. I know a couple of pros that actually have the monitor centered so that the bottom left-hand corner of their monitor is like right in front of their eyes. But anyways, that's a little bit of a tangent. You can see that Stalkers here are trying to punch through the front door for a second there, but Alive is in position. It looks like Alive is going to move out now and try to take out these Stalkers, and he will be able to, thanks to concussive shells, the snaring effect there, deliberately slowing those Stalkers down. And first, not with an incredible start here in Game 5. Can't be too happy that he lost those 2 Stalkers, and that's something you've always got to be careful about when you're playing against a Terran bio. If in the early game, if you bring some initial units out, those Marauders can concussive shell your army, and if they do that, then you're in a lot of trouble. Anyways, it looks like First here really has to be on the defensive. He's going to have to throw down some force fields, and 3 force fields are forced. Of course, Alive here forcing those force fields out because he knows he's got the upper hand here since he's killed off 2 of the Stalkers. But it looks like he isn't going to press the issue, although he could. I think it's probably better not to risk it. Reason being that there is an Immortal up there now, and those sentries still have a lot of energy. And so Alive here thinking twice, deciding not to do it. Of course, he didn't have stim or combat shields ready yet, nor did he have +1 weapons. So I think a good maneuver there. He lost a Marauder, but he forced some sentry energy out. And that'll be less force fields he'll have to deal with in the next couple of minutes if both players decide to engage. Back at home, Twilight Council robotics facility being constructed as well, or have already been constructed, I should say. Blink is being researched as our +1 armor. More gateways being added on at the same time as well. And the Terran army is continuing to move out here. Once again, Alive, of course, waiting for stim pack combat shields and +1 weapons. I do believe he's going to be going for a timing attack now. And the +1/1 timing with stim pack and combat shields is always very devastating. It looks like he won't have 1 armor, but he will have 1 weapons at the very least. And will first be able to defend against this. He's going to need a few more sentries, I would imagine, for force field energy. It looks like something there went down. I'm not quite sure what. And Alive here, he can apply a lot of pressure at the corner. He's going to move in, he's going to stim, and he's going to take out 1 Immortal. He's going to take out 2 Immortals. Photon overcharge going down on the Nexus. But for the cost of his forces, killing off 2 Immortals there, I would say worthy trade. Not to mention forcing more sentry energy out. Very nice play right there from Alive, and really, you know, smelling blood and just going for it, not hesitating, realizing that he had an opportunity there to take out 2 Immortals. And if you can thin out the capital units early on against a Protoss player, that really hurts them in the mid to late game. If you can pick off the Colossus, the Immortal, you know, the Tempest early on in the battle, then they don't have a chance to get into critical mass mode. And when you can do that, you know, you stand a much better chance of survival in the late game against a Protoss player. So a really nice job there from Alive. Looks like he's going to go in for another stim, but these Stalkers have Blink this time around. And they do get back home safely. Templar Archives being added on, of course, as well. And I see what Alive's game plan is. Once again, he's trying to contain the Protoss on 2 bases. It worked for him in Game 4. Why not Game 5? This time he's going to spread his army out and bring some of them up to the north. And sending 1 of the Marines back to keep his Marauders alive. Clever maneuver right there. And I like what Alive's game plan here is. Really, he's just trying to keep first basically contained on 2 bases while he sets up a 3rd expansion. And really, if you can keep the Protoss from getting this base right here, which on this map there is an open access point into that expansion by ground, then he might actually have a chance here at winning this game against First. We'll see what happens. The factory here is going to get destroyed. But that's alright. I do believe he got his starport up already. He did. So he doesn't have to worry too much about the factory going down. There is a Warp Prism making its way around the bottom right-hand corner of the map. I just love First's, you know, usage of Warp Prism. He doesn't lay down against Terran, where Terran love to drop relentlessly. Most Protoss are always in the business of defending the drop. This Protoss, First, is in the business of countering the drops with drops of his own. Really like the play. It looks like Alive is going to see this Warp Prism. And remember what I told you guys about good Terran players, good StarCraft players in general. They're always keeping an eye on the minimap. I would be very surprised if Alive did not see that Warp Prism coming inbound. And yeah, he knows it. He knows about it. He's bringing his Marines and Marauders back home in position to defend against this Warp Prism. That is the beauty of just leaving a few units here or there on the minimap. And yeah, he's even brought his Viking here as well. Wow, look at how top-notch this level of Starcraft is. And that Warp Prism is not going to be able to do a damn thing. It gets completely countered. And what a beautiful play by Alive, making use of that Marine in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, Ghosts are being added in, of course, to the mix as well. Alive relying pretty heavily on Ghosts in this matchup. First, also going to be relying on Templar. Does he have Colossus coming out yet? Doesn't look like he has the Robotic Support Bay quite up yet. And this time around, it looks like he's going to be more emphasis on Charge Lot, Archon, Templar. And we'll see if he can make something happen here, because he's fallen down in supply by about 10 or so. He will need to make a move here pretty soon. He does have a third expansion coming up, though, so he's not too far behind in bases, but I would like to see him maybe make a move for this expansion here. The only problem, of course, is the bunker placement from Alive. Really nice placement of bunkers at the front door, along with a missile turret too, in case of Dark Templar, and this covers all of his expansions. All of his bases are covered here in that fashion, so really nice by EG Alive there, as he will be able to pick off a Templar at the same time. And that's always nice when you pick up a Templar that almost has full energy too. Very painful for a Protoss player. Warp Prism here, gonna just forget about flying the long way around, gonna go right into the main base, depositing off units, but those units get canceled off as the Marines focus the Warp Prism down. And so far this game, First has not been able to put a dent in Alive. Alive has countered every drop. He's been able to build incremental advantages from the beginning of this game, ever since picking off those two Stalkers in the middle of the map. And this game is starting to unravel a little bit for the Protoss player. He's got to get things under control here. As he retreats once again, he doesn't actually have a big enough army to deal with the size of these Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts. The upgrades currently 1-1 and 2-1. Protoss having a slight upgrade advantage. Feedback going down on the Ghost. But the Templar does get picked off. And it looks like now First is going to concede a little bit of ground territory in the middle of the map. And you can't really blame him. I mean, how is he going to fight this army head-to-head? It's a very big army. What he needs right now is a bit of a defensive advantage. The high ground, photon cannons, you know, photon overcharge on his Nexus, something in order to help him defend here. It looks like he's continuing to use feedbacks in really good fashion, draining these medevacs of energy and basically taking him out of the game. But he's got to be careful. Those snipes are just annihilating his Templar, and he's been losing more Templar than his opponent has been losing Ghosts. There are 8 Ghosts on the field and 9 Templar instead. It looks like, oh, great feedbacks right there. Of course, a Sonic Storm, excuse me, EMP Shockwave does counter the Templars. But not a bad round of feedbacks there. And these Ghosts now are starting to run pretty low on energy. There's actually only 4 remaining in the army. And it looks like there were a couple more feedbacks that might have gone down there. But that Ghost had the last say in the matter with an EMP Shockwave to drain those Templars' energy. Man, I just love watching Ghosts versus Templars. Both of them, the psionic, you know, forefront of their species. And yet both of them so evenly matched, really. Love watching those battles. Looks like some Zealots are going to move in here. They will be able to take out some of these Marines. And look at this, man. We might have a big battle here from the Terran and Protoss armies. In the meantime, of course, a Warp Prism still over here behind the 3rd expansion as Zealots drill through the front door. This Warp Prism can definitely unload its army if it wants to. And I'm surprised First isn't going for the 3rd expansion. It looks like he's too preoccupied with dealing with this battle at the front door. Drops a storm, but whiffs the majority of the Terran army. And it looks like Alive now thinking about making a move up to the high ground. And Alive, of course, has position. In the meantime, at the natural expansion, some Zealots have been deposited inside the natural. So there is damage being done to Alive's economy. But Alive is at the 3rd expansion here, and he's going to get stormed. A lot of great storms coming down on Alive's army, and he loses a large chunk of them due to the psionic storm output. And Alive has got to be careful. Another huge storm. And his Marines and Marauders have really taken a beating here And at the meantime, he's lost about 38 SCVs, absolutely brutal. And First here showing that he can play a battle on multiple fronts. Look at how many Marauders and Marines just died right there. And all of a sudden, First has this game in the bag. With that Warp Prism harass, the counterattack, he was able to kill off a ton of SCVs. He's still inside the main base, depositing more SCVs through the use of the Warp Matrix, and not much that Alive can do about this. And not to mention, he's lost most of his army after you know, dancing with fire against the Protoss army. And really, I think the keys to this game, not just the Warp Prism, but the Psionic Storms from First in that main battle. You know, 3 or 4 of them landed right on top of the bio army of the Terran player, and you know, Alive tried to dodge them, just couldn't get out of harm's way in time before the damage was done. And because of that, I think he suffered some really critical blows, and now he has really got to pull it together now. Will he be able to do it or not? More SCVs and mules dropping down. 42 have fallen this game already, but you know, Alive is a Terran player. He does have another command center coming up. Theoretically, he's still on 3 bases. He can still pull it together here, but he is facing a huge, you know, mountain to climb here. He's down by about 70 or so supply. And we'll see if he can get it together or not, because there are now Colossus that are being produced back at home for First. And really, First just has to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes from here on out. You know, build up an army, max out, add in some Colossus in order to have his army have that additional range and firepower, and continue to keep up with the Warp Prism harasser, which has really been doing a good job for him so far this game. Look at that Warp Prism dodging in and out right there, and staying alive with only 4 HP, and getting some Zealots into the main base or into the 3rd expansion as well. Very nice job here from First, and showing that he is a force to be reckoned with, a former Brood War player moving on into StarCraft 2. It looks like all the Brood War pros these days that are playing StarCraft 2 are just taking the league by storm. And Alive here, I mean, he's not out of it, I don't think, out of the game yet, but he is really not in a good position. He's down by about 66 supply now. He has closed the gap a little bit, and it looks like he's just going to be forced to push into the middle of the map here and make something happen. He does have the upgrade advantage at 3-2, but oh, those Templars coming around the backside, getting feedbacks and storms off, and this Marine army once again just eating the storm. And Alive just doesn't, I mean, he cannot afford to let his army get stormed like that. And it's tough. Sometimes those Templars are just coming at you from a position you don't expect. That time they came from behind the Terran army, you know, from where the Terran reinforcement lines are coming from, and they just landed a couple of absolute beauties. And because of that, I mean, Alive is just, I don't know, man. He is really going to have to hope for a miracle here. His ghosts are going to have to get some really good EMPs. Of course, one big problem here is he doesn't even have any Vikings to deal with the Colossi. So I'm not sure if he even wants to engage against this army. Once again, another Templar moving in, looking to get a big spell off right there. But that time, Alive was quicker on the trigger. But yeah, he really needs some Vikings in the mix here before he can think about engaging this army. EMP Shockwave going down on the Mothership Core, meaning that only one Time Warp Field can come down. Couple of storms whiffing the army here, but more EMPs are of course getting landed down. Sentries depleted of energy, and here we go. Alive is just going to commit to this engagement here even without Vikings. Not too sure how good of an idea this is, and Alive realizing that it's a moot point, and he is going to have to GG. So his entire army is going to get wasted here. Maybe not these guys are like, oh, thank God he GG'd before we died. But what a game there, and a really good series by First and Alive. Hope you guys enjoyed. I have more sets coming out for you guys, but for now, this is HD, and I am signing out.